I'm Fiona Grant, 30 years old. I put my heart and soul into planning a birthday party for my mom at a historic mansion in Savannah, Georgia. Every penny, every detail, I bear alone. I thought it would be the night my family finally looked at me. But as a result, they launched custom t-shirts everyone has won, and I am no exception. In bold black, the t-shirt reads, "The family's greatest shame." The sister grinned and threw the t-shirt across the table. "Don't be so serious. It's just a joke,"
she said.
Mom smiled softly, as if it was not worth mentioning at all. Dad shrugged slightly, deliberately avoiding my eyes. The brother chuckled as he sipped his drink. Even my aunt clapped her hands, as if this was some kind of laugh of the year. I didn't yell or cry. I folded my t-shirt and placed it next to the dinner plate, barely squeezing out a smile. My hands were shaking, and I reached out of my bag and pulled out a stack of papers heavy, formal, vital. At the moment, everyone's eyes are focused on me. I held up the papers, page by page, and slowly but firmly tore them in half. The room fell silent for a moment, and the smile on my sister's face disappeared. "What are you doing?" she asked harshly. I didn't answer, threw the torn papers on the table, turned, and walked out. The heavy door of the mansion creaked shut behind me. An hour later, my phone began to vibrate. Phone calls, text messages, voice messages. They finally saw what I had destroyed. They panicked, and they contacted me over and over again. Do you think I did the right thing? Welcome to share your views in the comments below. Growing up in my suburban Atlanta home, I was always an outcast. My sister Trisha, who is 5 years older than me, is the apple of the eye of the family. She is a cheerleader and prom queen. She got married at the age of 25. She has a bright future. Mom Susan always said with a big smile on her face, while nailing another of Trisha's awards to the refrigerator. My brother Kevin, who is 2 years older than me, will never make mistakes. Even if he breaks his bike, plays truant, and fails in exams, his father David will only rub his hair and say, "Boys, it's all the same." And I have always been a dispensable existence. When I was 10 years old, I attended the science fair and went home with a trophy, but my mother hardly looked at it. "Don't be proud, Fiona,"
she said.
Dad nodded. Eyes always stay in the newspaper. Trisha curled her lip. "It's just a kid's game." Kevin laughed as he threw the football. Their light eyes stung me like a needle, but I endured it. After high school, I learned to keep quiet. Trisha received a car for her 16th birthday, and all I got was a sermon about responsibility. Kevin can get new sneakers every season, but I can only wear his old clothes. I studied hard, joined a debate club, won a scholarship, but Trisha scoffed as if top student were an insult. Mom and Dad never participated in any of my activities. They were always busy accompanying Trisha to beauty pageants or going to Kevin's ball games. Only Mom's older sister, Aunt Joyce, would occasionally tap me on the shoulder and say, "You did a great job, Fiona." But the compassion in that tone, I feel it clearly. I longed for their approval, but it never came. College became my safe haven. I moved to Athens, Georgia, majoring in event management, working intensively on internships and planning various events that are getting better and better. At the age of 25, I started Coastal Event Planning and within 5 years valued the company at $20 million with high-end clients such as corporations and celebrity weddings. I never show off, but I always silently support my family, pay my mother $80,000 for knee surgery, bear the cost of dental correction for Trisha's children, give Kevin $10,000 for car repairs, and various holiday gifts and irregular transfers. However, my family took it for granted. Trisha mocked me for being just lucky. My parents collected the money calmly, but did not appreciate it. I thought that success would change their views. I specially dressed appropriately for family dinner and hinted at my work achievements, but I was always interrupted by my mother turning to talk about Trisha and my father mentioning Kevin. Trisha and Kevin privately mocked me for being too hard, and Aunt Joyce never defended me. Even so, I still didn't give up. I called my mother every week, sent industry articles to my father, and invited Trisha to participate in my activities, but I was ignored or forgotten. I overheard my father say to my neighbor, "Fiona is fine, but not as outstanding as Trish and Kevin. This sentence deeply hurt me. I can only put more energy into my work. The company signed a $500,000 celebration contract for a technology company, expanded the enrollment of employees, and opened a second office, and my career is booming. However, the money I sent home still did not meet their needs. $20,000 for Trisha to decorate the kitchen and $15,000 for Kevin to start a business. However, they were still ungrateful when he squandered it at will and paid off the $90,000 overdue mortgage for his parents. I have always comforted myself that maybe one day they can really see my efforts. Even if this hope scarred me, it also maintained my connection with this family. Planning my mother's birthday party was my last effort to change my family's mind. I put all my efforts into making it an unforgettable celebration. I chose Savannah's historic mansion. My coastal event planning company was solely responsible for it. I ordered a 5-course banquet, a jazz quartet, and my mother's favorite lemon cream cake. I spent weeks screening guests and invited more than 100 relatives, friends, and neighbors. 7. The $50,000 budget is all my own. If it doesn't get their approval, there may be no chance. But the family's response was extremely indifferent. I told my mother the details of the party, and she was only too extravagant. Send Dad photos of the venue. He only replied simply, looks very luxurious. Trisha even lied that her mother already didn't like lemon cream. Kevin didn't answer my phone at all. Aunt Joyce's concern is only perfunctory comfort. I suppressed the negative emotions and focused on the preparations. The team fully cooperated with the construction of the venue. I stayed up late to adjust the details and only wanted perfection. What I'm really looking forward to is not just the party, but the expensive gifts I'm preparing, a $2 million contract for the transfer of 10% of the company's shares to my parents, and a $50,000 university trust fund for each of Trisha's 2 children. I was filled with longing for their approval when I submitted the documents, which supported me through countless sleepless nights. Even if I asked my family about the menu and sent the activity process, I still got only Trisha's ridicule, Kevin's disregard, and parents' silence. I still comforted myself that they would definitely see my efforts. The week before the party, I was stationed in Savannah to oversee the preparations, all supported by coffee and hope, not only a party, but also my last chance to change their minds. The party came faster than expected, and the evening was perfect at first. The jazz quartet played, the guests talked, and the dinner was impeccable. I watched my mother celebrate in the blessing of old friends, thinking that finally won the approval of the family. Unexpectedly, Trisha suddenly got up and handed out custom t-shirts. The family's t-shirts were full of praise, except the one thrown to me was printed with the greatest shame of this family. In the face of my shock, the family laughed collectively, and Trisha defended it as a joke. In the past, their contempt and indifference came to mind instantly. I knew that this was not a joke at all, but their truth. I suppressed my anger and calmly took out the folder from my bag, which contained the $2 million company share transfer contract for my parents and the $50,000 each university trust fund document for the children of Trisha. Trisha saw a sudden change in her face, but without saying a word, I slowly but firmly tore the document into pieces. The family panicked completely. Trisha asked harshly. My mother cried and urged me to stay, but I only responded coldly. Do you think I am a disgrace? Then see how well you can live without me. Then I turned to leave. The mansion door closed behind me. Walking through the night in Savannah, my mind was clear. The years-long pursuit of my family's approval ended. I didn't look at my phone as I drove back to the hotel, and I knew they would soon understand what they had lost. After stopping the car, I finally felt the long-lost ease and relief. Early the next morning, my cell phone was full of missed calls and text messages from my family. Trisha sent a malicious voice calling me sad for ruining my mother's party. Susan tried to find out what the shredded documents were, but the tone was a little slow. David accused me of going too far, while Kevin mocked me for performing well. Although Aunt Joyce's tone trembled, she only advised me to solve it well. I ignored all the news and could clearly feel their panic. It turned out that the guests had collected fragments of documents, which they had seen were $2 million in company shares for their parents and $50,000 each in college funds for Trisha's children. Trisha was the first to react and turned to publicly smear me on Facebook, calling me a drama actor, paying attention with tantrum vlog, and drawing out the insulting t-shirt. Her friends echoed and scolded me for being ungrateful. Susan and David also complained everywhere, falsely claiming that I was out of control and having a nervous breakdown and portraying myself as a victim. Kevin continued to send messages accusing me of humiliating my family and being too selfish. Even after their tone turned to pleading, I just turned off my phone. I know very well that their despair was never because of me, but because of the loss of my cash machine. For years, I silently filled their debts, paying off their parents' $90,000 mortgage, financing Trisha's family expenses, and supporting Kevin's startup project, but they were never grateful. Now that the documents are gone, they don't reflect on the cruel joke, but they have intensified their efforts to throw the blame at me. I was completely chilled and understood that what they wanted was never reconciliation, but to continue to squeeze me, and I would never pay for this weight again. They lost not only documents, but also me. A week after the party ended, Inc. magazine ran a feature story about me. A few months ago, a reporter contacted me to do an interview because he was admiring the rise of the Coastal Event Planning Company. I hesitated at first and didn't want to be too flamboyant, but after going through the t-shirt, I agreed. The article was posted online with the title, Fiona, the event planner who built a $20 million business empire. The article details my entrepreneurial journey, from nothing to starting a company, hosting high-end celebrations, and the story of my silent support for my family over the years. The article mentioned the $80,000 I paid for my mother's medical expenses, $20,000 for Trisha's kitchen renovation, $10,000 for Kevin's car repair, and countless financial support, which they never recognized. I didn't ask the reporter to mention the party and wanted to keep the experience in the private sphere, but my devotion to my family was made public. After the article was published, the response was immediate. My inbox is full of messages from strangers, entrepreneurs, single mothers, people who have also been overlooked by their families. "You are my role model," someone wrote. Others said, "I am also cut off from my toxic family. Thank you for letting me know I am not alone." There was also a blast on social media, with a Twitter thread about the article quickly going viral, garnering thousands of likes and retweets. Fiona Grant deserves better. A user posted, "It's unreasonable that her family took her money," and called her a disgrace. Topics such as hashtag Fiona Grant hashtag and hashtag Family Truth hashtag have been on the hot page for days. My Instagram followers doubled and then tripled. Customers sent emails praising my work, and others offered me new cooperation olive branches. A local charity invited me to speak at their celebration. I read every message, every comment. My heart is full of warmth. For the first time, I felt the taste of being recognized, not from my family but from the whole world. Trisha's life began to collapse. First of all, her Facebook post completely reviled her. Those who read the magazine article began leaving messages under her page. "She helps you pay for your child's tuition, and you call her a disgrace?" Her number of fans has plummeted by hundreds. A local boutique chain, for which she served as a brand ambassador, terminated its cooperation with her on the grounds that values do not match. The contract can bring her $1.50,000 in revenue. Trisha tried to save face by issuing a vague apology. "I didn't mean to upset anyone, it was just a misunderstanding." But no one bought the apology at all. Her friends stopped interacting with her, and she gradually stopped posting. She sent me a text message with a stiff tone. "You don't have to make everyone know." I did not reply. Her anger has nothing to do with me. Kevin soon got into trouble, too. He's been selling his startup to investors, counting on my fame to add credibility to him. After the article was published, a venture capitalist emailed her, rejecting his $100,000 loan application. "We can't fund someone who is associated with this family farce." The email was forwarded to me through a mutual acquaintance. Kevin's text became desperate. "Fiona, you ruined my life. Explain it to these people." I ignored him. He never cared about my efforts before, but now he is just reaping the consequences. His entrepreneurial project ran aground. He could only start borrowing money from friends, and his self-confidence plummeted. Susan and David have been hardest hit, relying on my money to maintain their standard of living, a $90,000 mortgage, and small expenses for vacations and car repairs. Losing my support, their savings were quickly depleted. Susan called the bank, only to find that their line of credit had run out. David tried to reapply for a home loan, but was rejected by the lender because of his unstable financial situation. Neighbors began to talk privately about their plight, some linking it to the magazine article. Susan left me a voice message in a tense tone. "Fiona, we are in trouble now. You don't have to do this step." David sent a text message. "This is going too far. We are your parents." After listening, I deleted it directly. Their words sound empty and weak, more about worrying about their wallets than real regret. Aunt Joyce, trying to act as a peacemaker, emailed me and said, "Fiona, I read that article. I didn't know you had put so much into it. Can we talk about it?" I appreciated her efforts, but it was too late. At that party, she also applauded the t-shirt and laughed at me with the others. I didn't reply to her email. That article not only revealed my work achievements, but also made me see their true colors. The public support gave me strength. A podcast host invited me to share my story, and a women's business network nominated me as a candidate for an entrepreneurship award. I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. This article changed everything. The family's lies, Trisha's posts, Susan and David's rumors, Kevin's accusations, and the truth. They tried to mold me as the problem, but the whole world saw through their disguise. I didn't gloat or need. Those comments, news, and new opportunities are enough to prove my worth. I spent so many years chasing them for approval, and now I finally understand that real respect comes from those who know how to cherish me. Their attacks did not stop. Trisha intensified her efforts on social media, posting a long post on Instagram. "Fiona lied in magazines and destroyed our family. She has always been jealous of me. But her fans are running out and no one believes her." The comment area was full of voices accusing her. "You took her money and laughed at her. Be bold." A local news blog reported the incident, comparing the Inc. magazine article with Trisha's post, and the contrast between the two was clear at a glance. My silent dedication was in sharp contrast to her public malice. Her account has lost more than 1,000 more followers, and her boutique customers no longer return her calls. As the public spurned, Trisha's anger gradually subsided, leaving her alone to roar in the empty echo chamber. Susan and David took a different tack, stopping friends at community dinners and making up stories about my betrayal of the family. "Fiona abandoned us." Susan pretended to be aggrieved, her voice trembling to gain sympathy. David echoed, "She's changed and feels superior." But the article has spread so widely that a neighbor can't help asking, "Didn't she help you pay for your medical expenses?" Their faces froze instantly, and the people around them fell silent, and the lie broke. They tried to paint me as ungrateful, but the attempt failed completely. Instead, people talk about their hypocrisy. They don't dare talk about me in public anymore. Their credibility is gone. Kevin's attack was more direct. He sent me an email accusing me of ruining his career. "Your stupid article cost me everything. I'm unemployed now." It turned out that his boss, after reading that article, questioned his moral character and fired him. Kevin was furious in another email. "You owe me, Fiona." I did not reply to him. It's not at all my fault that he lost his job. His career has been sustained by borrowed money and my fame, never by his own efforts. Later, he never sent me a message again, and the arrogance of the past was replaced by silence. Aunt Joyce made one last effort when she showed up at my Savannah office without an appointment, her face written with apprehension. "Fiona, I'm sorry," she said, clutching a handwritten letter tightly in her hand. "I didn't know you gave so much. Can we start over?" Her words were sincere, but it was too late. Over the years, she witnessed the contempt I suffered, and at that party, she also applauded the t-shirt and laughed at me along with the others. I shook my head. "I've had enough, Aunt Joyce," I said, in a firm but not mean voice. "I've given enough." She took the letter and left, her shoulders collapsing. My heart has a little bare but did not catch up. Some bridges, once broken, can no longer be rebuilt. 2 years later, I was standing in a packed ballroom in Atlanta when the National Women's Business Council named me Entrepreneur of the Year. There were 500 people in the audience, from CEOs to new entrepreneurs. When I stepped onto the podium, everyone stood up and applauded me. I was wearing a navy blue dress, my hair curled high, and the silver trophy glittered in my hands. I laughed, not for the camera, but for myself. The award lauded Coast Event Planning, now valued at $25 million, for redefining the event planning industry. They praised my resilience, my innovative spirit, and my low-key philanthropy, funding local shelters and scholarships for single mothers. I spoke briefly, thanking my team, clients, and strangers who had encouraged me. I didn't mention my family. They don't deserve to be present at this moment. After the ceremony, my phone lit up and I received many messages, but none of them came from Trisha, Kevin, Susan, David, or Aunt Joyce. They haven't contacted me since Aunt Joyce's visit. These text messages are from people I've never met. A young woman in Texas wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to quit that toxic job. Thank you." A father in Chicago sent a message, "I read your story in Inc. magazine, and you inspired me to stand up to my parents." A college student emailed and said, "Because of you, I also plan to start my own company." Every message is like a beam of light, warming my heart that I once thought was frozen. I saved all the messages and reread them over and over in the quiet of the night, reminding myself, my value has never depended on my family's approval. I occasionally hear news about them, mostly from distant cousins. Trisha started over again after her divorce, working in a retail store, and never heard from her again on social media. Kevin moved to a small town to do odd jobs, and his dream of starting a business was long gone. Susan and David lived a simple life in their apartment and had a much smaller social circle. Last Christmas, Aunt Joyce sent me a card with only her signature on it. I did not reply. Their lives go on, and so do mine. I no longer pay attention to their dynamics. I no longer care what they think. Their voices, once so loud in my head, have long since disappeared without a trace. This award is not my only milestone. Coast Event Planning continued to expand and signed a $2 million contract to plan a national music festival. I opened my 4th office in New York, hired 20 new employees, and launched a mentorship program for young women in business. My home by the sea became my refuge, my own garden, and the roses blossomed under my care. I would invite friends over for dinner. It was the real friends who would laugh at my jokes instead of laughing at my pain. I travel and speak at conferences in Seattle, Miami, London. Every trip, every speech has enriched my life. This enrichment does not come from honor, but from my choice to finally be myself. I bought this truth with years of pain. I spent my whole life pursuing recognition, the respect of Trisha, Kevin's gratitude, Mom and Dad's pride, Aunt Joyce's understanding. I tie my own worth to their nods, smiles, fleeting approvals. But as I turned away that night in Savannah, I learned a deeper truth. Self-esteem is more important than anything else. No one's approval, not even that of your family, can define your worth. Only you. I gave them everything: money, time, love, and they gave me back a t-shirt and ridicule. Leaving them is not only to get rid of them, but also to respect their hearts. The news of those strangers also made me understand a truth. When you share your own story, you may be able to light the way of others. I started a blog, not to be famous, but to make connections. I wrote about my own experiences of starting a company, getting out of the process of betrayal, and finding inner peace. Readers responded, sharing their own struggles, the abuse of their families, the disdain of their bosses, the dreams they buried. I answered every email, every comment, and gave them something I had longed for. Someone told them, "You're good enough." My words influenced thousands of people, and later even millions. A publisher approached me and wanted me to write a memoir. I signed the contract, not for money, but to let this light continue to illuminate others. Standing on the podium, holding the trophy in my hand, I didn't feel the sense of victory for my family, only relief. The weight of their expectations, their ridicule, their lies is gone. I finally built a life that was truly my own, not what they expected it to be, but what I wanted it to be. The applause gradually subsided, but the truth has always remained in my heart. First, respect yourself. The world will respect you. I stepped off the platform, light on my feet, and I finally found my place not in their shadows, but in my own light.